In this video, we will discuss how to run a successful engineering business by successfully running the various components of the business. Each of these components have to be run efficiently in order for them to have a successful engineering business. So let's get started. This video is brought to you by Engineering PDH Courses, your online resource for continuing education for professional engineers and professional land surveyors, where you can also earn your professional development hours for renewal of your license. Be sure to stay to the end of the video where you will receive a special gift just for you. When I first became a project manager, I was rarely overwhelmed by all the different things that was needed to be a successful manager of an engineering firm. I didn't really understand how the financials worked. I didn't understand how the structure of the business was important, how to market to clients. I didn't have much of an understanding anything outside of the operation of the business. I was very good as a project engineer, working with my team, moving the project from the beginning to the end. And I didn't really have to worry about the rest of the business. That was the manager's job. When I became a manager, it became my job also to understand all aspects of the business. It took me years to understand the financials of a business and how it actually works, and how it when you do your financials successfully, how that overall your business is successful. It took me a while to understand the difference between an AR and an AP, accounts receivable and accounts payable, something as simple as that. And then to find out about key performance indicators that they show how successful the business was and how it was running financially. These key indicators, I had no clue to what they were beforehand. But over time, I learned by understanding my key KPIs, or key performance indicators, I could also adjust my team by not having necessarily the most, let's say, expensive employee working on my project, but the less expensive employee working on some of the different items that helped reduce the cost that it took in order to finish the project. So these are some of the financial things I had to learn when I became a project manager. At the same time, while learning financials, I also had to learn how to market to my clients. Not only my existing clients, but also my potential clients that I may have in the future. Marketing to me as an engineer was so foreign. I had never taken marketing in college, nor had I ever really been introduced to marketing before. It was a very nerve-wracking experience. I had no clue of how to market to anybody at the time when I first became a project manager. Over time, though, I learned that most of the marketing that an engineer does is quite natural. It's mostly going up and speaking with someone and letting them know that you're an engineer and what services you provide. If you do this over and over again, people begin to realize that you're a civil engineer that works in land development, helps developers move their projects from the beginning place where they can get permits to build their projects. And so it's not that hard to market civil engineering. It's learning the strategies of how to market. Of course, with marketing, eventually you get to the point where you get to write an actual proposal. A proposal, or an offer, or a value proposition, as some has called it. These are documents that you present to a client, a potential client, or even an existing client, saying that you're capable of doing a certain task or providing a certain service that they need to finish their project. Writing proposals, though, is not as simple as just following a canned speech. Marketing leads to eventually writing proposals and presenting proposals to clients. Up until becoming a project manager, I never really had to deal with writing proposals or even having to present a proposal to a client or a potential client. This was a kind of foreign to me at first. I knew how to write, I knew technical writing, but not necessarily writing proposals. Proposals are not that hard to write, but you really have to understand what the client needs and what he's looking for in his engineer. Then you write that proposal to cover those needs and requirements of the client. What you're trying to do in a proposal preparing is to set yours separate away from your competition, that you are specifically writing this proposal for that specific client. And if he feels that, And if he feels that he knows that you understand what he needs, he is more likely to go with you for his contract. It's hard also when you become a project manager to learn to delegate tasks away, especially tasks that you really know how to do, and you'd rather not do some of the tasks you don't know how to do as well. One of those, I was very good as a project engineer, and to delegate that to another project engineer was very difficult at first. But that's the operations side of the business. Even though I knew exactly how to do the operations, how to start a project and get it all the way to finish, I had to teach another person to do that. Over time, gradually learning and working with my project engineer, I learned to trust him more and more, and he began to become just as good at the operations side as I was as a project engineer. The first component is financials. And what's important in your financials is the cost structure of your business, how's the different fees are set up, depending on the client that you're working with, and what service you're providing to them. Some services will cost more than others, and it's mostly due to how long it takes to get the job done and who's going to be working on the project. Some services require your upper designers, your senior designers, and your project engineer to finish the job, while as many other services may not require the more higher labor costs, but maybe a lower individual like a CAD operator doing red lines. Also, you'll need to have a practice setup where you're continuously collecting revenues. Revenues for an engineer is what we call a progress invoice. Each time we send out an invoice, we expect to get paid within 30 to 60 days later on that invoice. If a client is taking longer than that, that can cause some serious problems with your company, because now he's putting you in financial jeopardy where you can't pay your employees, or you can't pay your office lease, or you can't pay your insurance, or all of the above you can't pay, merely because your clients are not paying. And if it's one of your major clients with some of your biggest invoices, it can really be a problem. And I have ran into that. And sometimes if you have a client that continuously does that, taking longer than 30, 60 days to pay, it may be a good option just not to have that client anymore afterwards. You want to look for clients that pay quickly and respect you and when they're paying. The second component is your clients, your existing clients and your potential clients. Your existing clients, you have to treat them the way you promised in your proposal. What you said you would do if you were awarded that contract. You have to provide it exactly that way and try to do more than what you promised. Some people call that under promise and over deliver, but in reality it's doing what you said you would do and nothing less than that. Also, your clients is your potential clients. Who out there may be your future clients to your business? Now, in general, we don't want everybody out there to be our clients. What we're looking for is specific clients. This is how our business is structured for that specific client. And that specific client is usually called your ideal client. This is the person that it could be a government, like in a county contracts, or it could be state contracts, federal agencies. It could be developers, contractors, architects. It could be a number of different people, but you're specifically looking for one or two of those to be your potential client, and that's where you put your marketing efforts at, because one, they pay well, which is really good in engineering, but also they pay on time or pay quickly. It helps keep your business financially stable. The other part to the client component is marketing. Now, marketing doesn't mean for an engineer to go out and send pamphlets and door hangers and flyers in the mail and all that. That's not what it is for engineers. Marketing for us, for engineers, is your business card. It's something as simple as a business card that whenever you go out and meet people, you're constantly handing them business cards. Now, there's an old friend of mine that once said it, I never hand them one business card. I always hand them two or more. And why would you do that, I would ask. And he says, well, one's for him or her, but the second one is for him or her to give a referral to. Someone that he knows that is looking for your services, he can hand them his additional card to them. So I've always done that. I always handed out 2 or 3 business cards to whoever I meet, so that way they have them for referral. Another important marketing tool for us is our particular plans that we send out. No one ever thinks of a project plan as being a marketing tool, but it actually is. A well-drawn plan is very easy to understand for a developer or a contractor. It's cost effective. It is a timely thing that they can look at and build it, and they're good. They don't have to call you out for an RFI every time. And we all know what an RFI, request for information, is. So those are time-consuming and costly things. So you want your plans to be specific. You want them to be detailed, but at the same time not cluttered or messy, but they look really nice when you look at them. Whenever I walk into a government agency and I see a stack of plans on the table that they're reviewing at the time, I can always point out my plans, and not even at a distance, so I can't even read what's on the plan, but I can tell by the way it's laid out that those are my plans, and no one else draws like we do, and that's our brand that we use for our engineering company. Also, another marketing tool is when you're doing presentations. Believe it or not, when you go to the county and you hold a meeting, you're in a meeting, and the way you hold and present yourself to those officials and your own client, when the client feels that you represent him in that meeting, when he knows that you know that you're protecting him and you're trying to find the best service, the best option for him, that's marketing. And that word gets around very quickly, how you present to the government officials. Even when you're going up in front of a town board meeting, a county commissioners meeting, the way you speak in front of the public, the way you speak on camera, all that's important, because the client and your potential clients that are in the audience are seeing you, and they know that you're representing your client, and they know you know what you're talking about, and you're not embarrassing your client, or you're causing your client to lose in that public presentation. So that's another marketing tool. There's many ways that engineers market their services, and it becomes very, very natural to us as engineers to market if we do it right, and not think of ourselves as just project engineers or just a civil engineer, but you're also a manager, and as a manager or a business owner, you are marketing all the time. The third component to the business is the offer, your value proposition, what you're offering to the client. And this requires understanding first what the client needs and what he wants from the engineer. If you don't understand those things, you will write a proposal, no problem, but it is nowhere near what he's looking for, and you'll write something for something totally different and not provide him what he was asking for. So you have to first listen to him. What does he need? He needs an engineer that can finish a project quickly, within 2 weeks, a month, 6 months, or does he need an engineer that can draw a set of plans that is very easy to understand, and that once the contractor's in the field of building, they can just build right from those plans and have no question or anything. They just go right through it. Or if they do have questions, it's very minimal type questions. Those are your proposals that you're writing. And so he's looking for the very specific proposals. Government requests for proposals, they lay out exactly what they're looking for in the proposal. And so when you're writing yours, make sure that each line that they request is in your proposal exactly the way they requested it. And then you can go off and provide all the other information, like who you are, your biography, and all your past experiences working in similar type jobs. All that's important, but first and foremost is to answer what their needs are, what their requests are, and be very specific on how you're going to provide the service to them. That's what they're looking for. Now the fourth component to the engineering business is the operations. And for a project manager that was previously a project engineer, you should really understand already the operations side of the engineering business. It's probably the easiest part of all the other components to really work with. But the one part that is probably the hardest, at least it was for me, was to trust someone else to be that project engineer that I was, and to take over that operation side and run it efficiently like I did and like you did. Within operations as a project manager, you would need to know what resources you have available in order to complete the project. And of course, even to write a proposal, you need to know what resources you have. But these resources include your equipment that you have. If you're a surveyor, you should know what equipment you have to do a topographic survey with. You have a transit, which I hope that's not what you're relying on in today's age, but at least have a total station, a working, functional total station with the proper prisms and rods that you need in the field in order to work with a total station. Or perhaps you have GPS systems that you can set up in the field that are also very quick and easy to work with. This is quite common now. It's becoming it's common with the government employees that they have GPS where they're marking off sidewalks with where are the manholes and water valves and everything. You see them going down the streets all the time doing GPS. Also, us as civil engineers use GPS a lot. But there's also other equipment that we may have, like 3D laser scanners, which is extremely important in certain types of services that engineers provide. But it's also, you need to have software, and software that can convert data that we get in the field. If you're a geotechnical firm, that convert the laboratory test into actual graphs so that we can see what mixture the soil is. We can classify the soil depending on what the lab tests are giving us, but also in surveying, converting surveying data into AutoCAD drawings so that we can then forward over to the civil engineer sections where we can convert that into grading plans and utility plans and traffic plans and all these other things based upon the software that we have. So we want to have the most reliable and latest software that we can get in order to run an efficient office that works very quickly, and also the computers that are needed to run that software, because the computers of 10 years ago, 15 years ago can't necessarily run the more current software that takes up so much memory and so much space on our computers. Another resource that we have to know a lot as managers is our staff. If you're taking on a new project, do you have the staff available to work on those projects? If you don't have the staff, you're going to take on a project that you can no way meet the demands of that client. It means, one, you're going to have to hire. But if you don't have the staff now and this project begins immediately, you have to hire the best you can find, because you got to get up to speed very quickly. You can't hire somebody that doesn't really know as much as your other designers and then work them over time to get them up to that speed, because your contracts are depending upon having the proper staff in order to do the work. Another component to the operation is what partners do we have. As a project engineer, I mostly dealt with the team that I had, and we would send out to third parties certain things like traffic reports or something like that for them to do, because we didn't have that resource in our team. But later on, we eventually hired somebody that could do traffic reports for us. But if you're managing your own company or you're managing a department, you got to know what resources you have, and you got to know who's going to be your partners. Who do you trust out there to help you in gaps that you may have in that company of yours. Next, in the operations side, you also got to know of all the products and services that you're capable of providing. Not just the ones you're providing right now, but also what you can provide if the opportunity came about. You may be able to do plans for a development plan that can take a project from raw dirt all the way up to a graded pad for an industrial building to start on very easily in your department, and you're used to doing it all the time. But that's great, but can you also maybe take the same individuals that draw that and maybe go over and design a dam drawing? Sure you can. And even though a dam is not the same expertise that's needed to draw a dam as it does maybe for an industrial complex, but you have the resources available, you have the software, you have the computers. All you need is somebody that has some experience in drawing out a dam. So there you have it, the 4 components that if each one is working efficiently together, you will have a successful engineering business. You must have a financials. You must understand the key point indicators within your financials in order to make sure everything is working properly within the company. You need to understand the second component, which is your clients. These are your existing clients and your potential clients. And then you also need to understand how to do your offer or your value proposition, your proposal. How do you propose to a client? And that first starts with understanding what they need and require from their engineers. Once you know that, you can write that proposal for them that's specifically geared to them. And then the 4th component to a successful engineering business is the operations side of the business, making sure that everything is available in your company to provide the services that you promised in your proposal. Now, what I would like for you to do is to go to the address in the in the description below, and you will find a special offer down there, which is a checklist basically to measure the health of your company. It will look at the 4 components for you. It'll ask you questions about your financials. Are you keeping up with your key performance indicators? Are you sending out invoices on time? Are you having invoices being paid on time? Questions like that. And then it'll also look at your offer, making sure that you're writing your proposals, that you're specifically answering the questions that clients are asking you. It'll ask you other questions like that. It'll also go into your marketing. Are you properly marketing your company? Are you trying to do something that really isn't needed as an engineer, but maybe something that you should be doing as an engineer for marketing? It'll also ask you questions on the operations side. Do you have the proper staff? Do you have proper equipment, proper software, things like that? And then at the end, then you add up the numbers and you kind of get a general idea how your business is operating and which of the 4 components it may not be working so well in, and these areas you need a little extra attention to. You can also download the free checklist by tapping on the button over here to the right, and that'll take you right to the page. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel by tapping on the button also to the right. Once subscribed, you'll be notified when we upload new videos on the business of engineering.